Hello. We are looking to start our little alignment chart here so that we can show everybody where we think these heroes land. So, looking at the listing of the heroes, we kind of figured there were actually three categories, not just light versus shadow, because some of them don't really fall into either one or typically would be selling their blades, if you were, for their own benefit to either side, as opposed to being specifically either or light or shadow. So um, we figured we'd start off with some of the simple ones, easy to place ones, like Bolton is obviously a light hero, and Prism is obviously a light hero, right? Um, Shiana, clearly a light hero, and we have Vincent and Viserai are pretty clearly um, shadow heroes, as well as Chain and Levia. Um, there's a few other ones we think kind of are pretty easy to label. Um, Arachne is obviously a rogue deck there. Um, Kind of continuing over from there. Yeah, Prism equals evil. The the uh, the good guys all think the light heroes are all evil. I'm sure. So you never know. But yeah, that's sort of a base point, putting down the ones I think are really easy to place as far as being like light versus shadow. Going from there, we have some heroes that are a little more difficult to place. Um, Although, like Dory here, I believe, is a good example of a light hero that doesn't have a light ability, but she's definitely on that team. So you see it in the alignment chart there, and it surprises you. I mean, she's referred to as the Hand of Soul and various other things. She's also in all of the stained glass artwork that appears to show her working with Prism and Oldhim and all of those people. So that's kind of where my train of thought is with that. Also, um, another one that was there was Lexi. So I think Lexi would be uh, would be considered a light hero. Honestly, she'd be on the light team. Yeah, the 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 United We Stand card, same as the stained glass artwork from the opening screen there. I think is a good way to look at a lot of who would be light or dark, right? Um, yeah, I think that's probably pretty smart. Where's Bravo? Bravo over here, I think, is another hero that we can consider to be a light hero as one of the guardians. Yeah, Briar's an interesting one. I'm not sure where to place Briar myself. Um, so Briar's a rune blade. Briar's history is kind of interesting, and the reality is that Briar is not necessarily evil. She is a rune blade. She's not necessarily shadow. She's not necessarily light. Um, Looking into the lore stuff, it kind of seems like Briar just escaped um, kind of a trap that her people have been in for a long time, and got out of there and is trying to free her people and doesn't really care about anything else. Um, so if we go by the United We Stand card and stuff, then this is probably where Briar goes. If we go by lore, then Briar probably doesn't care to pick a side as far as light versus shadow would go, whereas these other heroes are very definitely in these spots like this here. Um, we can definitely discuss that one, but for now, I think I'm going to put Briar there, and we can maybe come back to it afterwards and have a look. It's a very interesting one. Um, Another one I think falls into this rogue category would be Dash. And one of the things I think where um, these things are going to matter is with the third category, what we're trying to introduce is a column of players that can play for either side, really. Um, so I like that. And then we look into some of the other heroes where I would kind of place them. If you have a differing opinion, absolutely share it in the chat, and we can look at it too. But I feel like Phi is one of the ones that is a bit of a rogue. Um, Seems to have some anger management issues, but he really only cares about fighting the Emperor. I think, right? Could be wrong. Maybe I'm way off. And I don't know. Are there any uprising heroes that are actually going to be either light or dark? Uprising seemed like a lot of outcast kind of things, like even Icelander, not truly evil, not really good by either side's standards. Obviously, the Shadow heroes believe the Light heroes to be evil, um, so it could go either way on that. Getting into the Shadow stuff a little bit more, um, I think that we can pretty safely say that Azuri falls into the shadow category, right? She looks nice in her young hero card art, but it seems like one of the shadow side heroes. I would say it is sometimes. They just try to make everyone look a little bit nicer sometimes, and you never really know. Up there with Azuri, I think Azalea can flop into this slot, even out the teams a little bit. Um, End up with a ranger on the light side and on the shadow side, Azalea also wasn't on any of the United Art or on the stained glass with any of the light stuff. So I have a feeling that she fits in here. Let me know if you disagree at all with that. But for now, that's where I'm thinking that'll go. Another one that's interesting would be Katsu. So Katsu, lore, we're talking about a noble hero that's trying to save their people. Um, kind of matches the vibe with a lot of the information you see on heroes like Bravo and Dory and Bolton. Um, not really against the light heroes. Not sure where Katsu would stand on Shadow. So like actually, trying to defend their people from this influence of the Emperor and all of them different things too going on. I feel like Katsu lands on the light side actually. And if we go along with that, then that probably places Benji there too. I think. I feel like that might be the thing. And then if we look at, say, going down the list, rogues, I'd say Rhinar and KO probably fit there just as well as Katsu and Benji fit up here, considering they just get mad and kill everything. That feels right. That feels right to me. Maybe KO could land down here because Rhinar is truly randomly aggressive, whereas KO is kind of super bloodthirsty. Uh, Rhinar, I think, is more neutral than KO would be. KO is very driven by like being chased and survival and killing and eating things. I think. I don't know. Then we kind of have other ones that sort of fit into there too, like merchants. We have a couple of merchants. Um, Genus is probably if you put the two merchants in, you can probably say Genus is the light one, and Cavden would be the shadow merchant if he was assigned to one of the categories, right? Um, I think those are, yeah, I'd say that's right. This one, there's argument that could be, these three four could possibly land other places, but I'm not totally sure. Um, and on the rogue side, Jadadal seems to fit rogue very well, I think. Um, these here, we're looking at the Emperor, and Yoji, I think, just has to go wherever the Emperor goes. He's a loyal follower, and I feel like the rogue category is probably actually best spot for them, because they only really care about the Empire and the Emperor himself, both of them, honestly. Um, and power. So I feel like they could go either way with that. Who do we have left? I think Valda here on the Guardian side strikes me as a light team member. Big brawler, but still a Guardian, you know. Chose that Guardian lifestyle, right? And then we have Riptide, I think, is another shadowy character along the same kind of vein as Uzuri. And then Ira. Ira's an interesting one. I think Ira could potentially fit into light, but makes a lot more sense to put Ira into the rogue category, just strictly based on more like self interest and preservation, just similar to the Emperor and those guys. Kasai, I believe, has to be rogue. I think I think that just makes sense. You've got a sellsword. Um, Sellsword screams rogue, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's the placement for that. And then Kano, where do we put Kano? Kano is an interesting one. Makes it even if we go on the shadow side, but being being a wizard and dealing arcane damage doesn't really amount to being a shadow character either. Um, I haven't really read a bunch of Kano lore either, so it's kind of an interesting one to think about as far as like where Kano's alignment would be. I'm gonna look it up really quickly here and just have a quick read of what Kano says. See if there's anything there that would help us place a Kano. So Kano is a member of the royal court and needs to take his duty and accept his place amongst the Drukhai. Says though that he'd rather focus on exploring tomes in the deepest recesses of libraries, etc. Basically, just wants to be a better wizard, a bit of a trickster, but ultimately a person that's going to take their role in the courts. So I say, then we put Kano up here with them. That seems reasonable to me. Now, for some of these, I'm wondering if something like Rhinar. What do we think of Rhinar being down here with KO? And then we have like a 10v10 with 12 rogues. And then I think I like this. Bolton, Prism, Dory, Lexi, Bravo. I don't think Shiana. I don't think any of those move. I think Guardians are more light leaning than anything. And then we've got the Genus versus Cavdan we had talked about as far as being on their side. These two ninjas, I believe, fit here very well. We've got our Arachne, who just doesn't care about anybody. Same with kind of Dash Fi, Dromai, Icelander. I'm still a little on the fence about Briar. I don't think Briar's good or bad leaning, honestly. And I think that's good like that. And then the idea was what we'll do is we'll shuffle things around a little bit so that we can have some rogue slots. That way, if you don't fit into the light or shadow heroes, what we can do is you can slot into the rogue area. And what we're hoping right now, I think we have 11 players involved. If we can do like a nice 12 players, then we can do an actual team event where we pair everybody off in their teams. So it would be 3 players aside, and first to 2 wins between those 3 players playing 3 players from the other side. And what we can do is say we have our light team versus our shadow team, and one of the shadow players is missing, or one of the shadow teams is missing a player. We can, take that rogue Icelander player and slap them in with the shadow team to make the numbers nice and even. It'll make it a lot easier for us to switch things around, and it'll make the most sense out of what we're trying to accomplish without undermining the integrity of the event because of the lower number of light players we're having right now. But yeah, because I think we would need 2 more light players to have the light team, whereas Shadow right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and Donovan. If you were to switch, then we'd have 6 and 6, and then we could do a round robin, and we could also just have other players join up to cover it off. So that might be good. I think this chart right here is a good start, and we'll save this, and I'll put the image into the chat so that we can have a good layout of where the heroes stand, and I'll start that rogue chat, so that we can get that going too, and maybe we can add a few more teams and have a good tournament that way. I think it would be really fun if we can get enough people to do teams, that would be awesome. It would be our first Flesh and Blood team event at the store. That would be really exciting for us. So, yeah, with that said, I think that's it. We'll get into organizing the games, and I also think what we'll do is probably randomly assign the teams ourselves from the chats once we have people in there, and anyone who is going to do the whole rogue thing. Or I guess, no. Here's what we'll do. My apologies. Um, Light heroes are on the light team, shadow heroes are on the shadow team, rogue decks in the middle. Either team can pick from in order to play those decks. So shadow heroes can choose everything from Arachne down to Riptide here. And light heroes can choose anybody from Icelander all the way up to Bolton here. And that gives us two really healthy big hero pools to choose from for both the Blitz and the CC event. And also locks in some hard heroes for Shadow and for Light, where these guys have no middle ground. That's where they are. That sounds good to me. So that's what we'll do, and it'll be a lot of fun. I'll see you guys in the chat, in the Discord. We'll leave it at that. That way we don't have to make another column for Rogue and have a whole third set of teams. I think that would require a lot more players, but we can make it work, I think. So, yeah, that should be good. Awesome. So, I will see you all in the chat. Thanks for coming to watch this little stream. And we'll get all of the details written into a little chat area for the Light vs. Shadow Tournament too, so everybody can see it if you haven't seen the video, or if you just want to quickly reference it without scrolling back into this. We'll have the image and the details saved in there. Awesome. Well, have a great evening, and we'll see you on Tuesday for the first Light vs. Shadow event. Bye.